That sounds good. Thing number one, Gary, Fed cut and a hot September PCE.
All right, so for people who are new here, the PCE stands for personal consumption expenditures. When we talk about inflation, people typically talk about the CPI, that's the consumer price index. When you hear people say, inflation is 2%, it's 3%, they're usually talking about the CPI, but the PCE is the preferred inflation gauge of the Fed. The reason for that is because it more closely tracks people's actual expenditures as opposed to the CPI, which is more of a theoretical basket. And yes, there are some exceptions to this, but I'm giving you a pretty good generalization. So the PCE came in at 2.1%. If you're targeting 2%, that's not bad, right? We can look at that and say, okay, that's actually pretty good, but there's a catch. The reason it was so low is because energy costs were down. And, as expensive as it is to put gas in your car and to heat your home, those expenses are down a little bit. And that dragged down the regular PCE. So what we do then is we look at the core PCE. The core is the regular PCE, but we exclude food and energy. And once you do that, well, we have a problem. The problem is the core PCE came in at 2.7%. That is high. And the Fed, we've been talking about this for 2 years. They're having a very hard time getting services costs down. We have a wage price spiral that has continued. And despite the fact that the Fed has been saying for about a year that the Fed funds rate was restrictive, meaning it was slowing economic growth and getting prices under control, the PCE, the core PCE rather, has been stuck right at or around 2.7% since last May. It was higher than that before. So we've had about half a year with it at the level where it is now. It is not coming down. They don't have it under control. Services prices were up 0.3% for the month. Food prices up 0.4% for the month. That annualizes to almost 5%. I'm going to remind you that every time the Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us, hey, food inflation is only 1 or 2%, we always say that is complete and utter nonsense. By the way, that is my very polite way of saying they're lying. They're lying to us. And food prices are up, and so that's what's happening. The real way that the Fed will be looking at the PCE, at the recent inflation data, does not show a decrease.
Gary, on X, some of our friends are claiming that the Fed has won the fight against inflation. You always bring us back to, hey, are your grocery prices lower? Have your monthly bills stopped climbing? I think a majority of Americans would answer no. Tell us what this means, and again, how is DKI positioning itself for what you're saying are going to be continued higher price levels?
Yeah, the Fed definitively has not won the war on inflation, and we think that's a really good way to phrase it to people, right? Like, what's happened to your energy costs? What's happened to your car payment or your house payment or your rent or your grocery bill? Has anything gone down? And the answer is really no. And yeah, there are certain places, but for the most part, we've not only hit a permanently high plateau of prices, but they've continued to increase. We also think that the inflation metrics are understated. So, they tell us the CPI is, somewhere between 2 and 2.5%. Not a chance in the world. The real number could be, 4 or 5%. And so we keep getting this data that isn't real data. And, our government officials and media keep telling all of us, hey, the economy's in great shape. Inflation's under control. Why aren't you people more grateful? Why aren't you congratulating us? And the answer is because for most people, this is not a great economy. The jobs data has been bad. The jobs data has been misleading. Inflation remains high and is higher than they're telling us. And people's monthly bills continue to go up every month. So I don't think they have it under control. But you know what? If you're watching this and you think we're wrong and you want to tell us your grocery bills are down, this month from where they were a year ago, great. Put it in the comments. I would love to hear from you because you will be the first person telling me that your financial life is actually getting better, that your costs and expenses are coming down.
And include receipts as well as addresses where those grocery stores are, so Gary and I can maybe get delivery from those spots or consider our next move in the near future. Gary.